I recently uploaded a video on Jamaica, specifically what to know before you go. At the end of that, if you did listen to the end, there was the final point, which was you need to explore Jamaica because Jamaica is a destination with a plethora of things you can do, right from relaxation on the beaches to exhilarating motorsport to hikes to treks to swimming with dolphins to absolutely everything you could possibly think of. I'm going to go as far as say it's probably the best place for activities in the Caribbean, at least where I've been in the Caribbean. I thought then I would expand on my previous point and go into a bit more detail about some of the trips that we have done in Jamaica. We've been to Jamaica 4 times and we have seen most of the major tourist attractions, not all of them because we haven't had quite the time to get over to the grill, which is really annoying, but that's still on the list for the next time. Anyway, so let's start off with the Blue Mountain tour. Now, the Blue Mountains aren't to be confused with the Blue Mountains in Australia, near Sydney. The Blue Mountain Range in Jamaica is towards the east of the country, and it gets its name from the blue hue that can often be seen around the mountain range. The top peak is the Blue Mountain itself, which is just shy of 7,500 feet. It's a very special place, sort of biologically or ecologically. It's a very interesting and special climate. I am not a biologist, so you might have to do a bit of research, but basically it means it's kind of the perfect place to grow coffee. And the Blue Mountain Range is famous for its coffee. It's probably one of the most expensive coffees in the world, at least commercially available. 80% more than 80% of it goes to Japan, so they're in high demand. But we'll come on to the coffee later. Let's start with the tour. It's a nice, gentle drive through lovely part of the country, plenty of nice views and greenery as you progress towards the mountain. Now, going up the mountain is a little bit icky. There are some big drops, cliff edges, and the driving can be a little bit erratic. So I did get a little bit scared. So it's not always for the faint of hearted, but hey, that's also part of the fun, isn't it? There are a few different stops along the way, mainly for photograph opportunities, and they are brilliant. We were lucky we were on a dry day, a little bit misty, but some amazing photos we were able to get. I think you stop at a police training or a military training base. There's a couple of other sort of houses you go to. So just a lovely piece of nature, really, fantastic mountain. And you wouldn't necessarily think that. It was very different to say the beaches and some of the sort of the places lower down in Jamaica, which was a lot more humid. It was actually quite fresh up there. So it's not the sort of experience you may be expecting when you go to a Caribbean island, but definitely worth it. The highlight, of course, was going to a coffee plantation. The fantastic thing about Jamaican coffee, the Blue Mountain coffee, I should say, is that it's so super smooth. And that smoothness is a result of the altitude, the climate, the weather, the rain, and so on. So it's practically almost the same climate the whole year round because of the exact location of the mountain. The coffee itself, when we went to the plantation, they brought it out, brewed it for us, and told us very specifically do not put milk in it and do not put sugar or sweetener in it. You're going to just destroy it. And they were right. It was absolutely just so good, just so natural, so flavoursome, so I mean, I can only use the word smooth, but it was a real eye opener and a great way for me to learn a bit more about coffee. And I do try to bag some either when I'm over there or if I see it a little bit on offer in the UK. The next day trip I'm going to talk about is Kingston. We did a day trip out here. This was a while before the highway was opened, and we had to go through the Fern Gully sort of road system, so it took a long time. But the interesting thing about here and coming down to both Spanish Town and Kingston was you actually got a real more of a vibe of the place and the people beyond the tourism sort of sphere and bubble, I should say. There was quite rough and ready in places, but it seemed quite authentic. You know, you stop off at a shopping mall and have some authentic Jamaican lunch. We had some goat curry, which was great. There's the highlights, probably the Bob Marley house. You can really sort of get a sense of the guy, his life, his achievements. brilliant. They caps it off by going up to the lookout, which you get a fantastic view across Kingston. Now, it's obviously not the safest of spaces down that way, but your tour's perfectly fine. I would say it's definitely worth considering if you want to see something different, if you kind of want to see the real functioning operational side of Jamaica, not necessarily the slightly veneered picture postcard stuff you see in the hotels. This tour had the added bonus of being a de facto history tour. The guide was fantastic in terms of giving us lots of backgrounds of how the country's come about, some of the quirks, some of the fun things, some of the food. So definitely good. And of course, always fun to say, I've seen Usain Bolt's school. One tour we did that had a bit of everything is a tour to Wyeth Falls with stops at Appleton Rum Estate and the Black River. Now, what's interesting about this, I've just checked and it looks like they've either split this into two, but I can't quite find all in one. So you may have to do this at two separate ones. But the first stop off was Appleton Rum. This was really fun to see the inner workings of a rum distillery. Still had the donkey doing the work there. It was the first stop of the day, so I think we must have got there about 9 o'clock or something. So it was pretty punchy when it came to tasting the rum. So it would be good if they did it at the end rather than the beginning. So don't get too carried away because it might become a little bit of a long day otherwise. They do have a nice little ride through the estate on a tractor as well, so that's good. The following stop would be down to YS Falls. The waterfalls are down in the south of the country and a little bit of a drive, but nothing too strenuous. We saw the pictures of this trip and it looked amazing. As you can see from this image, we were obviously very much looking forward to it. However, we drew the short straw and we gone the day after a massive torrential storm. So it was flooded. So the water was very muddy. Plus side is that it was quite impactful, sort of seeing raw nature and the sort of speed and velocity of the water coming through. So, hey, that's a positive. But I would imagine going at a time when it hasn't been torrential downpours, it would be a very beautiful waterfall. The final stop is Black River, where you go on a little wildlife cruise. Black River is called so because there's itchy sort of sediment at the bottom. So whilst the water's actually pretty much crystal clear, it kind of has this really strange black hue to it, hence the name. A bit like the Blue Mountains, let's call it after a colour. This is a fun ride along the river, lots to see. There's plenty of birds and wildlife, but the highlight is the crocodiles, the wild crocodiles. So, unlike the ones we saw in Cancun, which was a little diddy one, these are proper sized, decent crocodiles. If you are feeling brave, what they do is they like to splash the water and bring them over to you. They seem to be pretty calm. The tour guide was happy to put his hand in the water and touch it on his nose and all that. So if you are feeling brave, you can touch it, and it's quite an interesting thing to do. Probably on reflection, wouldn't do it now, but hey, I did it, and I was a photo of me stroking a crocodile, so that's quite fun. There's also a few other wild ones along the way, a little bit of a hatchery too, so you see some little cute baby ones as well, and that was a great little trip. A few quick fire ones now if you need some activities for a few hours. One is to climb up Dunn's Rivers Fall. This is good fun. I'd probably recommend you taking a good pair of water shoes or something like that because it can get a little bit slippery. You can rent them, but obviously that's going to cost you a few dollars. Nice adrenaline rush. Take a camera, waterproof camera possibly, and it's really good fun. So that's a good one. If you want to go swim with dolphins, there's Dolphin Cove. That's great. You can swim with the dolphins, you can swim with the sharks, you can play with the stingray. So all those sort of things. That's all around Ocho Rios. Another couple of things in quite close proximity to Ocho Rios is the Martha Bray River Cruise. This is slightly different to the other ones, a bit more relaxed on one of those long wooden boats and just drift down the river fairly relaxing, which is good. Another thing, if it's of an evening, is Luminous Lagoon. This is a really, again, one of those special places in the world. There's some kind of algae in the water that means when it's disturbed, it creates all these luminous colors. And I've got some photos, they do not do them justice, principally because you can't use your flash on the camera because obviously that counteracts the luminous lagoon. If you want to, you can also get in to the lagoon and have a little sort of swim and a paddle round and create those little shimmers yourself. But it's a really special place and definitely worth looking at doing one evening. So those are the trips we have done while we've been in Jamaica. Just a sample because there's hundreds of them to do. As I said, I haven't had the chance to get over to Negril. That would be on the list if I ever get over to Jamaica again. But hopefully that gives you some idea of some ways to pass the time beyond just lounging on a beach. And if you do go to Jamaica, have a fantastic time because it's a great place to visit.